There are about 70 sermons in Paul's gorgeous preaching in Athens that day that we heard Sharon read for us a little bit earlier. But we don't have time for 70 sermons this morning. We only have time for one. And so I needed to choose one, and here's what we will focus on for today. God ordered the seasons and the boundaries of their habitation. And I want to talk about our seasons in life. And it's a framing that I appreciate because let's just admit it, life changes, we change, the people around us change. In fact, they say that every 7 or so years, especially up until you get to maybe your 50s, you have some pretty significant changes in your personality and lifestyle, and that's kind of complicated. Anyway, we can get into that another time. We have 5 parts to this sermon series. So we don't know exactly when the changes are going to happen, but I don't know about you, but I am actually pretty terrible about making myself change, no matter how much I try. I mean, I can change little things, but not like the full personality. And when I'm in a season, it's a season. Now, do you know what season you're in? Now, in this metaphor, there are many, many different ways to approach this idea of seasons. Parker Palmer, who is brilliant on everything, and especially brilliant on this, talks about life seasons in terms of the 4 seasons of the year, but sometimes we talk about seasons like I'm in a growth season, or I'm not doing that for this series. We're going to talk about the seasons of the year. And today, as I introduce this sermon series, I'm going to actually quote quite liberally from his beautiful writing, because he says it better than I ever could. And know this, because this now launches a 4-part sermon series on the spiritual seasons, I'm going to give you Parker Palmer's grounding coming out of Paul, and then I'm going to give you more of my reflections on how you can figure out where you are and how to live with that with the help of God. Sound like a plan? All right. So now I'm going to quote from him. Seasons is a wise metaphor for the movement of life, I think. It suggests that life is neither a battlefield nor a game of chance, but something infinitely richer, more promising, more real. The notion that our lives are like the eternal cycle of seasons doesn't deny the struggle or the joy or the loss or the gain, the darkness or the light. But it encourages us to embrace it all and to find in it opportunities for growth. Autumn. Autumn is a season of great beauty, but it's also a season of decline. The days grow shorter, the light is suffused, and summer's abundance decays towards winter's death. Faced with this inevitable winter, what does nature do in autumn? She scatters the seeds that will bring new growth in the spring, and she scatters them with amazing abandon. In my own experience of autumn, I'm rarely aware that the seeds are being planted. Keep track of that. Instead, my mind is on the fact that the green growth of summer is beginning to brown and die. My delight in the autumn colors is always tinged with melancholy, a sense of impending loss that's only heightened by the beauty all around me. I'm drawn down by the prospect of death more than I'm lifted up with the hope of new life. But as I explore autumn's paradox of dying and seeding, I feel the power of metaphor. In the autumnal events of my own experience, I am easily fixated on surface appearances, on the decline of meaning, on the decay of relationships, on the death of a loved one or a work. And yet, if I look more deeply, I see the myriad possibilities being planted to bear fruit in some season yet to come. Winter. Winter is demanding, It's a demanding season, and not everyone appreciates the discipline. It's a season when death's victory can seem supreme. Few creatures stir, plants don't visibly grow, and nature feels like our enemy. And yet the rigors of winter, like the diminishments of autumn, are accompanied by amazing gifts. One gift is beauty, different from that of autumn, but perhaps more beautiful still. I'm not sure that any sight or sound on earth is as exquisite as the hushed descent of a sky full of snow. Another gift is the reminder that times of dormancy and deep rest are essential to all living things, despite all appearances, of course. Nature is not dead in winter. It's just gone underground to renew itself and prepare for spring. Winter is a time when we're admonished and even inclined to do the same for ourselves. It's a chance to see ourselves and each other more clearly, to see the very ground of our being, until we enter boldly into the fears we most want to avoid. Those fears are most going to dominate our lives. But when we walk directly into them, protected from frostbite by the warm garb of friendship or inner spiritual discipline and guidance, we can learn that they have much to teach us. Then we discover, once again, that the cycle of the seasons is trustworthy and life-giving, even in the most dismaying season. But for me, winter has an even greater gift to give. It comes when the sky is clear, and the sun is brilliant, and the trees are bare, and the first snow is yet to come. It's the gift of utter clarity. In winter, you can walk into the woods that had been opaque with summer growth only a few months earlier, and now you could see the trees clearly, singly and together, and see the ground that they're rooted in. Spring. Before springs become beautiful, it's actually really ugly. It's nothing but mud and muck. But in that muddy mess, the conditions for rebirth are being created. The word humus, the decayed vegetable matter that feeds the roots of plants, actually comes from the same root word that gives rise to the word humility. And that's a blessed etymology. It helps me understand that the humiliating events of life, the ones that leave mud on my face or that make my name mud, may create the fertile soil in which something new can grow. Though spring begins slowly and tentatively, it grows with the tenacity that never fails to touch me. The smallest and the most tender shoots insist on having their way, coming through the ground that looked just a few weeks earlier as if it would never grow anything. But the crocuses and the snowdrops do not bloom for long. But their mere appearance, however brief, is always a harbinger of hope. And from those small beginnings, hope grows at a geometric rate, and the days get longer, and the winds get warmer, and the world grows green again. In my own life, as my winters segue into spring, I not only find it hard to cope with the mud, but it's also hard to credit those small little harbingers of larger life to come. It's hard to hope until the outcome is secure. Spring teaches me to look more carefully for the green stems of possibility, for the intuitive hunch that may turn into larger insight, for the glance or touch that may thaw a frozen relationship, or for the stranger's act of kindness that makes the world seem hospitable again. And finally, summer. Summer is the season when all the promissory notes of autumn and winter and spring come due. And each year the debts are repaid with compound interest. In summer, it's hard to remember that we had ever doubted the natural processes, that death had been ceded to the world that we had ever lost faith in the powers of new life. Summer is a reminder that our faith is not nearly as strong as the things we profess to have faith in. A reminder that for this single season, at least, we might cease to be anxious and give ourselves to the abiding and abundant grace of our common life. So those are the seasons as Parker Palmer introduces them. And it's rare that I would quote someone so extensively, but I think you can understand why I so deeply appreciate what he said. And if you get our newsletter, I'm actually going to link to where you can read his full writing. I encourage you to do that because it's rich and there's a lot there and you can't take it all in when you're just sitting here listening, right? But there's a lot of wisdom there, and I'm just going to summarize now. So when we're in our autumns, we're surrounded by beauty, but we're facing decline. But it's also a time of preparation for the growth that's to come. Got it? Winters, you don't have to get it because I'm going to do a whole sermon on that, right? But anyway, when we're in our winters, things are stripped away and bare, so stripped away that we get utter clarity if we're willing to look. It's a time of rest and renewal, and it's a time when we can confront the scary things, probably because we have to. And then there are springs, moving from the humble mud to the persistent growth and the growing light. And finally, summer, when we reap the harvest and live in the light together. And just to be clear, the seasons are not based on age. You can be 100 and living summer. Seasons are seasons. They come and they go. And as the apostle put it in our text today, God ordered the seasons and the boundaries of their habitation. I'm going to say that again. Can you say it with me, actually? God ordered the seasons and the boundaries of their habitation. One more time. God ordered the seasons and the boundaries of their habitation. It's really good to remember that. So what season are you in? Wherever you find yourself. Now, first of all, before I keep going, let me just say this. You may not know. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I know either. So I think we're going to explore this together and see. But my guess is I'm in winter, like the end of winter heading to spring. And I'm looking for God to show me the boundaries of the habitation of that season, because I'd like to get into the mud, well, out of the mud and into the chutes, right? So I think that's where I am, but I'm not sure. Maybe you have an idea of where you are over the next few weeks. What I'm hoping is that we'll learn what to do with recognizing the season we're in, because there are very specific prayers for that time. So anyway, in whatever season we're in, there are challenges, and then there are also blessings, and that's the discipline we want to build. So that when we're in mud, we see the shoots coming. Or when we're in the parched sun, we can look for the water and find it. So if you're in winter, spring, summer, or fall, in the parts that are joy, or the parts that are challenging, know that I pray for you, I see you, you have others who are with you, and I can't wait for God to bless you into the abundance of your particular season. And let the church say, amen.